Mysterious signals from deep out in space known as fast radio bursts, a mysterious force pulling galaxies toward itself, and the mystery of dark matter. These are scary space anomalies that scientists wish they never found. Starting off this list today, we are talking about fast radio bursts. Fast radio bursts are some of the most mysterious signals we've ever detected in space. These bursts of radio waves are so intense and short that they only last a few milliseconds, yet they can release as much energy as the sun does in an entire day. The first FRB was discovered back in 2007, and since then astronomers have been trying to understand where they are coming from. They're often detected in far-off galaxies, and some are repeating, while others only happen once. The weirdest thing is how unpredictable they are. Sometimes the bursts arrive in rapid fire, and other times they seem to just pop up out of nowhere. So, what's behind them? The leading theory is that they come from neutron stars, which are remnants of exploded stars. When neutron stars collide or spin, they release massive amounts of energy, possibly causing these strange bursts. But there are some that are still completely unexplained. The most fun theory, and the one that I really hope is true, is that unexplained fast radio bursts are signals from alien civilizations. Can't say definitely that that isn't the case, so I'm just gonna go ahead and believe that until it's disproved. In our number 9 spot today, we are talking about the Great Attractor. The Great Attractor is a gravitational anomaly in space that scientists are still trying to figure out. This mysterious force seems to be pulling our galaxy, the Milky Way, and many others toward it. The thing is, we can't actually see. It's found in a region of space between the constellations Centaurus and Hydra, hidden behind a huge cosmic dust cloud, so we can't really directly observe what's causing the pull. All we know is that it's incredibly powerful, strong enough to affect galaxies millions of light years away. The force is so intense that it's literally altering the motion of galaxies, dragging them across space. Some scientists think the Great Attractor could be a cluster of galaxies clumped together in a way that's creating a gravitational pull. Others think it could be a supermassive black hole, or something even stranger, maybe some kind of dark matter concentration that we just don't fully understand yet. Whatever it is, it's something out there that's affecting the universe in ways we just don't understand, and the fear of the unknown makes it one of the scariest mysteries in astronomy. Next, we are talking about the cosmic microwave background radiation anomalies. Say that 10 times fast. The cosmic microwave background is a faint glow of radiation left over from the Big Bang. This radiation fills the entire universe, and studying it helps scientists understand what the early universe was like. But in recent years, some oddities in the CMB have popped up. One of the most famous is what's often referred to as the cold spot, an area where the radiation is much cooler than it should be. This cold spot is a huge mystery because it doesn't fit with what we understand of how the universe formed. Could it be caused by a giant cosmic structure beyond our observable universe? Probably, but we can't really be sure. There are also other anomalies in the CMB, like weird patterns and irregularities that don't line up with the models we have. I keep saying we. They have. Actual astronomers and scientists, not just people like me who also make plenty of videos on Bigfoot and the Titanoboa. Point is, there's a lot about the early universe that very smart people who study this stuff for a living still don't understand, but that's what science is, an ever-growing constant pursuit of the truth. Next, we are talking about Tabby's star. This star, about 1,500 light years away from us, flickers. It has these strange dimming patterns that we just don't really see with other stars. Normally, stars will dim and brighten because of things like dust clouds or changes in their own activity. For example, a star might expand and contract, or flicker because of things like solar flares. But Tabby's star's behavior is completely different. Some of the dimming episodes are dramatic, where the star loses up to 20% of its brightness. That's huge. Most stars don't fluctuate like that. So what's going on? One explanation is that dust might be blocking the light, but this theory doesn't really explain such a sudden, extreme drop in brightness. One theory that actually gets talked about amongst researchers more than you'd probably think is that something massive, say an alien Dyson sphere, could be blocking the light. What is a Dyson sphere? Well, it's a hypothetical piece of technology, a massive sphere that would surround a star to collect its energy. It definitely sounds far-fetched, but at this point it's really anybody's guess. Space is just too vast and too mysterious to rule anything out entirely. Next we are talking about dark matter. Dark matter is a really strange concept to try and wrap your head around. We can't see it, we can't touch it, but we know it's there because we can observe its effects on things that we can see. Here's the problem. We know that galaxies shouldn't be holding together the way that they are based on the visible matter we can detect. There's just not enough visible matter to explain how galaxies stay intact. Because of this, we have dark matter, which is believed to make up about 27% of the universe's total mass. It bends light and affects the movement of galaxies, but what exactly is it? Well, we actually don't know. It's just this stuff that's there but isn't. It's completely unknown. Almost like nothing from Neverending Story. Some scientists think it could be made of particles we haven't discovered yet. Others think that dark matter might not be particles at all, but something else entirely. We just don't know. Next we are talking about Oumuamua. In 2017 we had a visitor from another star system, an object that we call Oumuamua. It was moving way too fast to have been part of our solar system, which means it must have come from somewhere else. The strange thing about Oumuamua wasn't just its speed, though, it was also its shape. It was long and cigar-shaped, unlike any asteroid or comet we've ever seen before, and it didn't have the typical tail of a comet. It was just this weird, elongated thing zipping through space. Even stranger, its trajectory seemed to change as it passed through the solar system, like something was pushing it in a way that didn't make sense. Most scientists think it was just a weird comet or asteroid, but there are some that think it could have been a probe sent by an alien civilization. Is that likely the case? Probably not, but either way, it came from outside our solar system and behaved in ways that don't match anything we expected. So there's just a lot of unanswered questions going on with Oumuamua. Next we are talking about the Milky Way black hole. At the center of our galaxy, there is a supermassive black hole called Sagittarius A. This black hole has about 4 million times the mass of our sun, and it's surrounded by a whole bunch of stars and gas swirling around it. We can't see the black hole directly because light can't escape from it, but we can see the effect it has on everything around it. It's been pretty quiet recently, but astronomers are always keeping an eye on it. Thank you, astronomers. Sometimes the material around the black hole speeds up and forms these huge bursts of radiation. It can release an enormous amount of energy. Now, scientists think Sagittarius A could be getting ready to wake up. While it hasn't been as active lately, there are signs that it could become more active again, which raises all kinds of questions. Could it start pulling in more stars? Could it release huge amounts of radiation? Could it do God knows what else? Next we are talking about rogue planets. Rogue planets are pretty terrifying. These are planets that don't orbit a star and instead just wander through space all on their own, totally unsupervised. The crazy thing is that these planets could be anywhere and we don't even know it unless they happened to cross in front of a distant star. They could be remnants of solar systems that fell apart, or they could have formed without a star at all. We've found a few rogue planets so far, but scientists believe that there could be many, many more out there. In fact, they might even outnumber the stars in our galaxy. It's hard to imagine a planet just drifting through space without the warmth and light of a star, but these planets might still have their own internal heat and could possibly even support life in some weird way. The idea of a planet traveling alone through the vast, dark reaches of space is kinda cool, I guess. Imagine if Earth was somehow able to do that with all of us still able to survive. We'd be on a constant journey through space, a Star Trek, if you will. Next up, we are talking about X-ray bursts. X-ray bursts are another mind-blowing space phenomenon. These bursts are incredibly powerful bursts of X-rays that come from deep space, often from the direction of neutron stars. Neutron stars are super dense remnants of exploded stars, and when they pull in material from a companion star, they can release massive bursts of energy. These bursts are so powerful that they can release more energy in a fraction of a second second than the sun does in a whole day. Some X-ray bursts are understood, like ones that come from neutron stars, but others are still a complete mystery. Some of these bursts don't match anything we know about normal astrophysical events. This makes X-ray bursts one of the scarier things scientists are studying. Are they caused by natural processes we don't understand yet, or could there be something more out there? Some force or object that we haven't even discovered yet. And finally on our list today we are talking about the mystery of missing antimatter. Antimatter is like the mirror image of regular matter. When a particle of matter meets its antimatter counterpart, they annihilate each other in a burst of energy. Pretty simple, but this leads to a problem. When the universe was created, it should have produced equal amounts of both matter and antimatter, but instead we see a universe mostly made up of matter. The mystery is, where did all the antimatter go? Scientists have been trying to figure out why there's this imbalance. Some think that there may have been a slight difference in the behavior of matter and antimatter in the early universe, but we don't know for sure, and at this point there's really no way to figure that out aside from figuring out a way to travel back in time. So if any of you have any ideas on how to do that, let the scientists know.
About 150 to 250 million light years from our galaxy is a strange, unsettling cosmic anomaly known as the Great Attractor. It's a region of space with such a powerful gravitational pull that it can draw entire galaxies toward itself, causing them to collide and merge. What makes the Great Attractor even more mysterious is that scientists can't fully explain its mass. There's not enough visible matter around it to account for the gravitational force that it exerts, so researchers really have no idea what lies at the center of it. The Great Attractor is found in the so-called zone of avoidance, a part of the universe that's obscured from our view, so studying this region isn't really an easy task. Now, I know what you're probably wondering. Will our galaxy be destroyed by this unknown Lovecraftian horror at some point? Well, fortunately the answer seems to be no. While the Milky Way is being pulled toward the Great Attractor, dark energy is simultaneously pushing galaxies apart throughout the universe. So even though we're drawn in, we're unlikely to ever collide with the Great Attractor itself. Long periods spent in space can actually alter our DNA. An astronaut named Scott Kelly, who spent nearly a year aboard the International Space Station, experienced some odd side effects. When he got back to Earth in 2016, there was some surprising changes that caught the attention of scientists. One of the first things he noticed was that he'd grown about 2 inches taller than his identical twin brother, Mike Kelly, who'd been on Earth the entire time. Like most people tend to do. Now, growing 2 inches taller as an adult, that's a pretty sweet deal. Not a negative side effect in the slightest. Send me to space if that's all that happens. But that wasn't it. When researchers did examinations on Scott, they discovered something even weirder. Not only did he have a different gut microbiome, but his DNA was now different than his brother. Identical twins typically share the same genetic makeup. These changes were thanks to the unique stresses of living in space, like exposure to cosmic radiation and the microgravity environment, which can alter cellular processes. Turns out the conditions Scott faced in space had caused his cells to essentially rewrite parts of his genetic code, and unfortunately he eventually shrank back to his original height, but the changes in his DNA were permanent. This means that in a biological sense, Scott and Mike Kelly are no longer identical twins. Now, this was after 1 year in space. Makes you wonder what effect longer periods of space travel would have on us. Shortly after the Big Bang, the universe was a hot, dense soup filled with particle-antiparticle pairs. When these particles came into contact, they annihilated each other, transforming into pure energy. But scientists have asked a very important question. If particle-antiparticle pairs were perfectly balanced, we should only have energy in the universe with no matter at all. But that's not the case, because you're sitting here watching me talk about this on a computer in your apartment or house or whatever. The point is, the cosmos is teeming with matter, so this must mean that some particles survived this annihilation process, allowing for the creation of everything we see today. This phenomenon, where matter predominates over antimatter, is referred to as the Baryon asymmetry problem. One hypothesis is that the fundamental laws of physics just may have been entirely different at the moment of the Big Bang, changing how matter and antimatter interacted, but it's still an ongoing mystery. Our Milky Way galaxy will one day collide with another galaxy. The Andromeda galaxy, our largest and closest galactic neighbor, is heading straight for us. Now, this will happen over the next several billion years. When the two galaxies finally collide, it won't be this sudden crash. It'll be an incredibly gradual process, taking millions of years due to the vast distances we're talking about here. And even though the galaxies will merge, the stars in them are so far apart that it's unlikely the stars will collide with each other, but you never know. As Andromeda approaches, the night sky will change, constellations will shift, and the night sky will look totally different as the two galaxies fuse. Over time, we'll have a new galaxy altogether. Again though, there's no immediate need to worry. This collision is billions of years away, far beyond the time frame that concerns us today. Humans probably won't even exist by then, at least not in the form we are now. We'll either be long extinct or we'll have splintered off to other planets, evolving into different beings. All the same though, it is kind of an eerie reminder that really nothing around us is permanent. Some physicists entertain a pretty mind-bending idea that our universe might actually be a hologram. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean we're living in some fake simulation like in the Matrix. Instead, the holographic principle suggests that our three-dimensional universe may be projected from a distant two-dimensional surface that contains all the necessary information to describe our reality. Kind of like how a hologram appears three-dimensional even though it's being encoded on a flat surface. We might be living in a universe that's fundamentally two-dimensional. It's a strange sounding concept, but it does simplify some complex problems in physics. When physicists apply the holographic principle in their calculations, they find that it makes a lot of equations easier to solve. Leonard Susskind, who helped form this idea, states that it's not just a wild theory, it's a practical tool used a lot in theoretical physics. The idea traces back to paradoxes surrounding black holes. One major issue is the black hole information loss problem. Stephen Hawking discovered that black holes emit radiation and eventually evaporate, which raises the question, if a black hole disappears, what happens to the information of anything that fell into it? Well, some scientists think that the information isn't lost and instead leaves a two-dimensional imprint on the black hole's event horizon. The fine-tuning problem states that even the slightest changes to the fundamental laws and constants of our universe could cause it to be completely inhospitable to life as we know it. For example, if gravity or the strong nuclear force were adjusted by even a fraction, the result might be a universe without stars, planets, and life as we know it. Everything around us is just so perfectly set up for matter to exist. It seems fine-tuned. So, was it specifically designed for life? Well, some scientists think there may be multiple universes and that our universe is just one of countless others, each with its own set of laws and constants. It could be that we just happen to be lucky enough to exist in the universe where conditions are just right for life to flourish, while other universes may be filled with completely different matter or no matter at all. And speaking of multiverses, let's talk about string theory, which proposes that instead of viewing particles as these tiny dots, think of them as incredibly small, vibrating strings. The theory goes that there are these extra dimensions, so tiny and curled up that we can't perceive them in our daily lives. Mathematicians refer to these curled up dimensions as Calabi-Yau manifolds, complex shapes that help describe the hidden aspects of our universe. These extra dimensions can have different configurations, sort of like different radio stations, each broadcasting a unique signal. Each configuration could represent a different set of physical laws and constants, the rules that govern how things operate in a particular universe. Here's something fun to think about. Earth is constantly under attack from high-energy particles shot out from the sun. Fortunately, our planet's magnetic field shields us from them, deflecting most of these solar threats, but there are times when magnetic disturbances in the sun lead to extra powerful solar flares. These explosive bursts release tons of X-rays and energy that travel at the speed of light, often resulting in disruptions to navigation and communication systems. Another threat comes from coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, which happen when the sun ejects large clouds of magnetized particles into space. If a CME is directed towards Earth, we experience geomagnetic storms a few days later, which can be bad for communications and power. The craziest geomagnetic storm recorded in modern history was the Carrington event of 1859. At that time, technology was of course not as advanced, so not really much happened, but if a similar storm were to strike today, the consequences would be much more noticeable. The internet could go down. We could have months without it. Sounds kind of nice, actually, but just think of how much we rely on the internet in our daily lives. It would be a pretty big adjustment. The likelihood of a storm of this size happening again is about 1 to 6 to 12% each decade. Not a likely chance, but by no means minuscule either. Another threat lurking in the cosmos is the possibility of a catastrophic supernova. When a massive star reaches the end of its life, it can explode in a spectacular display known as a supernova. This unleashes intense waves of radiation that can obliterate anything within what's called the kill zone. Astronomers estimate that this hazardous area extends about 40 to 50 light years from the explosion. And no, fortunately, there are no stars this close to Earth that are expected to explode anytime soon, but even more distant supernovas can emit high-energy X-rays and gamma rays that may interact with Earth's atmosphere, and there's a potential for this interaction to damage the ozone layer, allowing harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun to penetrate more easily, posing a risk to life on our planet. The closest supernova observed in the last 400 years was SN 1987A, discovered in the Large Magellanic Cloud on February 23rd of 1987. The explosion was incredibly bright, shining with the energy of around 100 million stars for several months. Back in 2015, scientists in Hawaii noticed something strange, a huge, empty patch where there should have been 10,000 galaxies. They called it a cold spot because it seemed like everything there had just disappeared. Now, scientists at Durham University came up with a pretty fascinating idea about this mysterious cold spot. They think it might have been the result of our universe colliding with another universe, almost like two giant soap bubbles bumping into each other. When these universes collide, it could push all the energy and stuff out of a specific area, creating a big empty space, the cold spot.
The moon Pan, located within the rings of Saturn, is often cited as a potentially artificial body due to its strange shape and behavior. Initially thought to be a natural moon, its appearance, disproportionately tiny and shaped kind of like a walnut, has raised serious questions in the scientific community about its true origin. The presence of distinct gaps within the ring system where Pan orbits builds confusion as it tugs at surrounding ring particles, which resemble a classic behavior of artificial satellites. While current scientific consensus leans towards a natural formation from debris, conspiracy theorists and a few fringe scientists speculate that Pan may have been a deliberate construct placed around Saturn's orbit to study ring dynamics or distant celestial events. Its interaction with the rings and peculiar form has made it a captivating object of study and speculation that continues to fuel debates about artificial celestial bodies. Another widely discussed piece of space hardware comes from China, where they launched a rather mysterious satellite into orbit in 2005. Dubbed Tianyong-1, this vehicle lacked an official description of its exact purpose upon launch, fueling speculation about clandestine missions or advanced scientific experiments carried out by the Chinese government. In the same vein, the United States military's uncrewed X-37B spaceplane, which has flown multiple secretive missions, has baffled the public with its unusual and highly classified payloads. Both satellites have intrigued the public eye because neither of their mission details matches the standard patterns of communication satellites or space exploration vehicles. With both of the satellites exhibiting untypical movements and secretive nature, the public imagination has painted them as watching Earth while in orbit. During the height of the Cold War, rumors circulated about an experimental spy satellite so advanced that it remained shrouded in secrecy for decades. Often referred to as the Phantom Eye in underground circles, this object was rumored to utilize cutting-edge stealth and surveillance technologies far ahead of its time. Eyewitness accounts and leaked anecdotes from retired intelligence officers described erratic orbital patterns and intermittent transmissions that defied conventional satellite behavior. While declassified documents have never confirmed its existence, the mystery of this prototype continues to spark debate among researchers and conspiracy theorists. Its legend serves as a reminder of the era's secretive technological breakthroughs and the enduring mystery of what might still be lurking in our orbital vicinity. Arguably the most famous of all alleged mysterious objects, the Black Knight satellite has become a staple in UFO lore and conspiracy circles. According to the legend, this object has been orbiting Earth for thousands of years, its origins shrouded in a blend of misinterpreted photographs, anomalous radio signals, and centuries-old sightings. Some theorists even claim it's an extraterrestrial probe quietly gathering data on human civilization. Mainstream scientists tend to dismiss these ideas, attributing the sightings to a mix of space debris, discarded satellite components, and optical illusions. Despite the skepticism, the persistent allure of the Black Knight satellite continues to captivate the imagination of space enthusiasts and researchers, fueling endless debate about what really lurks in our orbital backyard. Another widely discussed and controversial topic is the theory of invisible stealth satellites, objects that some believe are engineered with advanced radar-evading materials or designs to monitor Earth undetected. These satellites are said to operate under the radar of conventional tracking systems, leaving only subtle, inexplicable signals and faint radar blips in their wake. Rumors suggest that they might be part of covert government programs or even experimental private ventures developed with technology so advanced that they seem almost otherworldly. The Kordylewski clouds are mysterious groups of dust that quietly orbit near Earth. They are not solid objects like traditional satellites, but are more like clouds made up of tiny particles. These clouds were first suggested by Polish astronomer Kazimierz Kordylewski in the mid-1900s. They are found near special points in space called Lagrange points, specifically L4 and L5, where the gravitational pull of the Earth and the Moon creates a stable spot. Over time, scientists have seen these dust clouds with special telescopes and infrared cameras, but many details about their size, shape, and behavior are still unknown. Some researchers even suggest that these clouds could affect the way light and radio signals travel through space, almost as if they're subtly observing us by absorbing or reflecting energy in very surprising ways. Their shifting, kind of ghost-like appearance keeps astronomers curious about the hidden forces at work in space. Not all objects that orbit near Earth follow the neat circular paths of our well-known satellites. Enter the realm of quasi-satellites and mini-moons, small bodies that, while not permanently bound to our planet, stick around like cosmic companions. One standout is 2016 HO3, a near-Earth object discovered just a few years ago that performs a complex orbital dance with our planet. Unlike conventional satellites, these bodies orbit the sun in such a way that they seem to hover near Earth, periodically coming close before retreating into the solar tide. Their trajectories are dictated by subtle gravitational interactions that can make them appear almost as if they're intentionally keeping a watchful eye on us. This delicate balance between freedom and attachment raises a bunch of questions. Are these objects mere space debris captured by Earth's gravity, or could they be remnants of ancient collisions in our solar system? Beyond the realm realm of conventional science and classified technology lies an even more speculative and equally fascinating theory: the possibility of non-human satellites silently monitoring Earth. Over the years, a handful of researchers have pointed to orbital anomalies and inexplicable signal patterns as potential evidence of probes or artifacts not of this world. Although the mainstream scientific community remains skeptical, these theories are supported by a patchwork of curious observations. For instance, some deep space objects exhibit orbital characteristics that suggest deliberate positioning, as if placed to maintain a constant view of our planet. Coupled with inexplicable electromagnetic signatures and surface properties that challenge natural explanations, these alien satellites have captured the imagination of scientists. While concrete evidence is lacking, the possibility raises questions. Could advanced civilizations have dispatched their own observers hidden among the clutter of space debris? The moon, our constant companion, has its own share of mysteries, not least of which are the reports of unaccounted for objects in lunar orbit. Over the past few decades, astronomers using high-resolution lunar mapping techniques have detected anomalies in the moon's orbital environment that defy straightforward explanation. These mysterious orbiters don't match any known spacecraft or mission debris, and their trajectories sometimes hint at deliberate placement rather than random accumulation. Some researchers propose that these objects could be remnants of experimental lunar missions, forgotten or intentionally hidden away by secret space programs. Others suggest that they might even be natural satellites of the moon, captured asteroids that have settled into stable orbits. Their existence is particularly intriguing because it blurs the line between natural celestial mechanics and covert technological deployment, prompting questions about the true extent of humanity's, and perhaps other beings', activity in our nearest cosmic neighbor's domain. We often think of decommissioned satellites as relics slowly succumbing to the harsh environment of space. Yet, a handful of these aged spacecraft have baffled experts by continuing to live long after their expected operational lifetimes. In some cases, these satellites exhibit sporadic bursts of activity, unexpected transmissions, minor orbital adjustments, or even anomalous sensor readings that hint at hidden energy reserves or unplanned engineering quirks. One such satellite, retired decades ago, has been detected on multiple occasions making tiny, seemingly intentional course corrections. While some scientists attribute these behaviors to residual propellant leaks or just natural orbital situations, others lean toward the possibility that these satellites were built with advanced, self-sustaining systems that activate under certain conditions. The phenomenon raises intriguing questions about the longevity of space technology and the possibility that some of these silent watchers might still be gathering data or even covertly monitoring Earth long after their official missions have ended. Did you know that one of the very first satellites is still cruising through space? Launched in 1958 as part of America's early space efforts, Vanguard 1 was never meant to be a permanent resident of our orbital backyard. This tiny 6-pound sphere was designed to test new technology and gather basic data, but its mission ended long ago. Despite being non-operational, Vanguard 1 remains in orbit because its high-altitude trajectory and compact design have allowed it to evade significant atmospheric drag. Today, it's a floating time capsule from the dawn of space exploration, a relic that wasn't deorbited when newer satellites took center stage. The fact that this historical artifact continues to circle Earth is a reminder that sometimes space just doesn't clean up after itself. It is a fascinating blend of human ingenuity and the unintended legacy of our ambitious beginnings. Ever wondered what happens when you blow up a satellite in space? Me neither. In 2007, China conducted an anti-satellite test that shattered its weather satellite Fangun 1C into thousands of dangerous pieces. These fragments, now scattered like cosmic confetti, orbit Earth as rogue bullets speeding through the void. Each tiny shard poses a serious threat to operational satellites and even the International International Space Station. What makes this event particularly chilling is not just the sheer volume of debris, it's the unpredictability of where these fragments will drift next. This incident is one of the most dramatic reminders that our orbital environment is not only cluttered, but also volatile. While the test was meant to showcase technological might, the unintended consequence is a persistent debris cloud that could one day spark a chain reaction of collisions, imperiling the future of space travel. Imagine two fully operational satellites suddenly colliding in the vastness of space. What would happen next? In 2009, a rogue encounter occurred when the operational Iridium-33 communications satellite and the defunct Russian satellite Cosmos 2251 smashed into each other. This accidental collision created a cloud of debris that now endlessly circles Earth. With hundreds of fragments dispersing unpredictably, this event serves as a warning. Even well-planned orbits aren't immune to chaos. The collision not only added to the growing problem of space junk, but also illustrated the delicate balance of orbital mechanics. Every speck of debris increases the odds of further collisions, a phenomenon known as the Kessler syndrome. The Iridium Cosmos event is a vivid example of how a single incident can transform the safety of space into a hazardous minefield, forcing engineers and policymakers to rethink how we manage our celestial backyard. Have you ever wondered what happens to rocket stages after they've done their job? Every time a rocket blasts off, its upper stages separate and, more often than not, are left to wander aimlessly in space. These spent rocket bodies, from everything ranging from early Delta launches to modern boosters, were never designed to become permanent fixtures in Earth's orbit. Yet, once discarded, they often remain there, silently orbiting at high speeds and posing collision risks to active satellites. Many of these defunct pieces are large enough to be tracked by ground-based sensors, and their unpredictable tumbling can lead to unforeseen close encounters with operational spacecraft. They're like cosmic cast-offs, a legacy of our relentless drive to explore space without a full plan for cleanup. This forgotten hardware underscores an important lesson. While our rockets propel us to new frontiers, the debris they leave behind can haunt us for decades. Have you ever imagined a tiny asteroid becoming an impromptu satellite? Every once in a while, Earth's gravity plays host to a temporary visitor, a small asteroid that gets captured into orbit for a brief cosmic pit stop. One such object, known as 2016 RH-120, floated around Earth for about a year before escaping back into the heliocentric orbit. These mini-moons are not like the moon that we all know and love. They're typically only a few meters across and are captured only for short periods. Despite their fleeting appearances, they offer scientists a unique chance to study near-Earth objects up close without sending an expensive mission. Their erratic orbits and temporary nature make them one of space's most unpredictable phenomena. It's almost as if Earth, in a moment of gravitational whimsy, decides to borrow a piece of the solar system, only to give it back when it's done playing host. That's like the cutest description of space I've ever heard. Everything else, terrifying. Can you imagine an entire satellite being blown to bits, leaving behind a cosmic cloud of debris? In November 2021, a dramatic anti-satellite test by Russia targeted the defunct early warning satellite Cosmos 1408. The deliberate destruction of this satellite turned it into a sprawling field of fragments, each one a high-speed hazard orbiting our planet. What makes Cosmos 1408's story so compelling is the deliberate nature of its demise, a test intended to prove military might that ended up adding thousands of debris pieces to an already crowded orbital environment. The resulting debris not only endangers other satellites, but also complicates future space missions. This incident is an example of how modern technology can backfire, leaving behind a legacy of hazardous shrapnel that serves as a constant reminder of the risks inherent in militarizing space. Would you be comfortable knowing that a nuclear reactor is still drifting around Earth? I'm not. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union launched a series of radar ocean recon satellites known as RORSATs, many of which were powered by onboard nuclear reactors. Although designed with strict safety measures, some of these satellites became derelict over time, leaving behind a potentially dangerous legacy. The reactors were intended to be safely deorbited under controlled conditions, but budgetary constraints and technical challenges sometimes meant that these nuclear-powered satellites lingered in orbit far beyond their intended lifespans. While most have long since decayed or re-entered the atmosphere, the very idea that a nuclear reactor could someday re-enter unpredictably raises alarm bells. These RORSAT relics are not only historical artifacts of a tense era, but also serve as a reminder of the environmental and safety challenges posed by nuclear technology in space. Ever wonder what becomes of a satellite when its job is done? High above us in geostationary orbit lie dozens of dead communication satellites. Silent, unmoving, and completely out of service. These satellites, many launched in the 1970s and 1980s, were built to last only so long before being replaced by newer technology. However, once their missions ended, there was often no plan to safely remove them from the orbit. Now they drift like ghostly relics, occupying coveted orbital slots and sometimes interfering with newer operational satellites. Beyond the obvious hazards of collision and interference, these relics clutter an already scarce resource: geostationary space. They're a testament to the rapid pace of technological progress and a cautionary tale about the long-term costs of leaving our outdated hardware behind. Every silent satellite floating in this belt is a reminder that progress sometimes comes with a price tag. In this case, the price of a crowded sky. Have you ever thought about the possibility of a lost tool floating in space? Astronauts on spacewalks sometimes lose small items. A wrench, a glove, even a stray camera that become inadvertent souvenirs of their missions. These objects, often just a few inches across, drift silently around Earth, completely detached from human oversight. While they may seem insignificant compared to whole satellites, these tiny items underscore the chaotic nature of space operations. Once free from the confines of a spacecraft, even a small tool can become a permanent resident of orbit, its fate sealed by the laws of physics. The idea that a simple, everyday object could outlive the manned missions that dropped it into orbit is both whimsical and a little bit eerie. It's a quirky reminder that in the vast emptiness of space, nothing ever truly disappears. It just finds a new home, floating among the stars. Have you ever received a radio transmission from a satellite that's supposed to be dead? Believe it or not, some defunct satellites, often dubbed zombie satellites, occasionally spring back to life by transmitting stray signals. Although they're no longer under active control, their onboard systems can sometimes malfunction in ways that make them emit mysterious beeps or bursts of data. These phantom transmissions can interfere with communication networks and even confuse ground operators who wonder if a long-forgotten spacecraft has somehow reawakened. One of the strangest aspects of these zombie satellites is that, despite being technologically outdated and functionally useless, they persist as eerie echoes of past missions. Their unexpected signals are like ghostly whispers from the space age, a reminder that once you send something into orbit, it might just keep sending messages long after its purpose has been served.
Vladimir Komarov was the first human to die in space. In 1967, Komarov piloted Soyuz 1, a Soviet spacecraft that was basically a death trap from the start. Engineers knew that there were major issues, but they launched it anyway. The spacecraft malfunctioned in orbit, the parachutes failed on re-entry, and Komarov slammed into the Earth at full speed. The Soviets claim they recovered his remains, but some sources say that he was completely vaporized on impact, leaving nothing but a charred pile of metal. There are reports of intercepted radio transmissions where Komarov was cursing out Soviet officials, fully aware that he was doomed. His voice was picked up by US intelligence, and if true, he spent his last moments screaming at the people who sent him to his death. I've heard recordings of this, and it is pretty eerie. Then there's the open casket funeral. Official photos show what looks like a lump of charred remains, barely human at all, but if he was completely incinerated, what exactly did they put in that coffin? Some suspect the Soviets staged the whole thing to save face. They needed a body, or at least the idea of one, to keep the illusion of control. The true fate of Komarov's remains, though, is still a bit of a mystery to this day. The Soviet Union was obsessed with winning the space race, but they weren't exactly known for transparency. Some believe Yuri Gagarin wasn't the first person in space, just the first one that they admitted to. According to some conspiracy theorists, the USSR sent up several cosmonauts before him, and when things went wrong, they simply erased them from history. The most compelling evidence comes from two Italian men, the Giudica Cordiglia brothers. These amateur radio operators claimed they'd intercepted all these Soviet transmissions from these doomed missions. One recording supposedly captures a woman's voice saying, I'm hot, I'm burning," as she dies on re-entry. Another has a man gasping for breath, struggling to describe his surroundings before going silent. And if these recordings are real, it would mean the Soviets launched people into space, watched them die, and then covered it up. The Soviets denied everything, of course, but there are photos of Soviet spacesuits that don't match any known missions. Official documents reference cosmonauts who never had public flights. Even Gagarin himself hinted that he wasn't the first, but he quickly stopped talking about it. Could he have known something he wasn't supposed to share? In 1989, the Soviet Union launched Phobos 2, a probe designed to study Mars and its moon, Phobos. Everything was going fine until the very last moment. Just before it was supposed to drop landers onto the Martian moon, it sent back one final transmission. The last image it captured, a massive, inexplicable shadow on the surface of the moon, and then silence. Phobos 2 was gone. NASA and the Soviets figured it was a malfunction, but the probe had functioned perfectly for months. It made it all the way to Mars, survived the harsh conditions, and then, right as it was about to complete its mission, it just stops working. The timing seemed a little suspicious, and that shadow, some say it looked like a massive cylindrical object hovering above the Martian surface. A natural formation, a camera glitch, or something else entirely. The Soviets never gave a satisfying answer, and Phobos 2 was never heard from again. Some speculate that it got too close to something that it shouldn't have, and whatever was out there didn't want it broadcasting. Apollo 11 is famous for landing the first humans on the moon, but there's a lesser known part of the story that's more unsettling. According to some sources, during their time on the moon, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin had a private conversation with Mission Control, a conversation that wasn't meant to be heard by the public. The claim is that NASA had a 2-minute radio blackout, during which Armstrong described seeing something strange, massive structures and a strange other spacecraft watching them. Some versions of the story say these objects were lined up along the crater's edge, like they were observing the Apollo landing. Former NASA employees have hinted that classified footage does exist, footage that was never released to the public. Was Armstrong rattled by what he saw? He never spoke openly about it, but Aldrin later admitted to seeing a strange light following them in space. NASA dismissed it as a piece of debris, but Aldrin seemed less convinced. And then there's the issue of this lost footage. NASA infamously lost the original Apollo 11 videotapes, including the raw transmission from the moon. How does that even happen? Well, some believe that it was intentional, that the footage contained something that wasn't meant to be seen. Did Armstrong and Aldrin see something extraterrestrial? If they did, we'll probably never know the truth. Vladimir Ilyushin, born in 1927, was no stranger to danger. Growing up in an aviation family, it was almost expected that he'd become a test pilot. Well, in April of 1961, just days before Yuri Gagarin's historic flight, the Soviet Union announced that Ilyushin had been in a bad car accident. But here's where things start to get a little strange. Rumors began spreading that Ilyushin hadn't been in a car accident at all, but instead, he'd been involved in a botched space mission. Some outlets, including the Daily Worker, reported that he'd tried to make an orbital flight and that something had gone wrong. Then a French broadcaster claimed Ilyushin launched in March and slipped into a coma during the flight. But here's the thing, NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, didn't pick up any signals of a launch. But then things got even weirder. American news started spreading stories about how maybe Yuri Gagarin's famous flight was a cover-up, that Gagarin was just standing in for Ilyushin, who is too ill to go public. The theory has led to a whole conspiracy, even making its way into films like The Cosmonaut Cover-Up from 1999, where Ilyushin's mission supposedly ended with a crash landing in China after a guidance failure. But did he really take that fateful flight, or did he actually just die in a car crash? No one knows for sure. Mars Observer was supposed to be NASA's big comeback in planetary exploration. Launched in 1992, it was designed to study Mars' atmosphere, climate, and surface in detail, but just as it was about to enter orbit in 1993, all contact was lost. 1 second it was fine, and the next it was gone. The official theory is that a fuel system leak caused the spacecraft's propulsion system to rupture, effectively ending the mission before it could begin, but because they never recovered it, that's just a guess. Some think a software error, others think an undetected design flaw doomed the probe from the start. There are even conspiracy theories about how it was deliberately taken out. By who or what, no one knows. One odd detail is that Mars Observer had military-grade imaging equipment on board. NASA said it was just repurposed from spy satellites, but some believe it was meant to take high-resolution images of something specific. Whether that had anything to do with its disappearance, who knows? Soyuz 2 was supposedly an uncrewed mission. It was the target for the manned Soyuz 3 mission to dock with, just a routine part of Soviet spaceflight plans in October of 1968. At least that's the official story. And in 1993, an American journalist named Mike Arena claimed that there was more to it. According to him, there actually was a cosmonaut aboard Soyuz 2, a man named Ivan Ashtishnikov, along with his dog Kloka. And according to his story, they never came back. Arena claimed that during the mission, a meteorite struck the craft, wiping out Ashtishnikov and Kloka. The Soviets, in the middle of an intense space race with the US, supposedly covered the whole thing up. They erased all records of him, removed his name from Soviet archives, and made it seem like he just never existed. Well, it turns out this story isn't true. The whole thing turned out to be an elaborate hoax created by Spanish artist Johann Fontcuberta. He fabricated mission patches, he digitally altered photos, and even created fake Soviet documents as part of this art exhibit. It was so convincing, though, that it tricked not just regular people, but even some media outlets. In 1998, a magazine in Mexico published a full issue on Ashtishnikov, completely unaware that they were spreading a fictional story. Some people even still believe this, even after the artist admitted it was all fake. The Soviet Zond program was a series of robotic spacecraft meant to explore the Moon and Mars. Zond 2, launched in 1964, was supposed to be one of the USSR's first successful Mars missions. It made it through interplanetary space just fine, even successfully testing out its ion thrusters, which were cutting-edge technology for the time, but then halfway to Mars it went dark. The Soviets lost contact and had no way of figuring out what happened. No distress signals, no malfunctions detected before it went silent, just complete radio silence. It's assumed that some kind of electrical failure cut off communications. There's no proof of that. Zond 2 kept drifting toward Mars, but since it couldn't be controlled, it missed its target and vanished into deep space. Had it worked, it would have been a huge win for the Soviets. Instead, it became one of many failed attempts to reach Mars. Zond 2's twin spacecraft, Zond 3, was launched later and worked just fine. Whatever happened to Zond 2 was specific to that one probe, and since no one ever recovered it, the exact cause is still unknown, and that's not the only lost Soviet probe sent out to Mars. The Soviet Union had a notoriously bad track record when it came to Mars missions. Throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they launched over a dozen spacecraft to the Red Planet, and almost all of them failed. Some exploded on launch, others malfunctioned en route, and a few made it to Mars only to mysteriously stop working right before they could complete their missions. One of the strangest cases was Mars 3 in 1971. It was the first spacecraft to make a soft landing on Mars and even managed to transmit a single blurry image, but after just 14.5 seconds, it cut out, and no one really knows why. The lander was designed to survive Martian conditions, and there was no obvious reason it should have failed so quickly. The Soviets never heard from it again. In December of 1959, a huge leak hit the news when a high-ranking Czechoslovakian communist revealed information about some top-secret Soviet space missions. According to him, a cosmonaut named Alexei Levotsky was launched aboard a modified R-5A rocket, and that several other cosmonauts died during these covert flights. The story was picked up by the Italian news agency Continentale, but after that, nothing. The story just went dead. So the question is, was this just some wild rumor, or were the Soviets really hiding a darker side to their space program?
First up, we have Oumuamua. Oumuamua is a mysterious interstellar object that was discovered in 2017. It's the first interstellar object ever detected passing through our solar system. It's an unusual shape. It's elongated, almost like a cigar. Now, one of the most intriguing aspects of Oumuamua is its acceleration. This thing is pretty fast. As it moved away from the sun, it experienced a slight acceleration that couldn't be explained by the gravitational forces alone. Something's happening here. Now, some scientists have proposed that this acceleration could be due to outgassing, a process that comets undergo when they are heated by the sun. Now, this has led to some more exotic theories, such as the possibility that Oumuamua could be an artificial object, perhaps a piece of alien technology. While this idea is out of this world, it has sparked a lot of debate and discussion among scientists and the public. Do we think this interstellar object is man-made or alien-made? Comment down below. The cryptic alien signals. NASA has been capturing evidence of extraterrestrial life for quite some time. The James Webb Space Telescope's ability to detect faint signals from distant worlds raises the possibility of discovering signs of intelligent life. And I don't mean us, because we're not that intelligent. The unknown is what is terrifying here. If we were to detect a signal from an extraterrestrial civilization, we would have no idea what their intentions are. What do they want with us? Is that beneficial to learning what's out there, or is this the potential for miscommunication? Language and communication are quite complex, especially when you're an alien. Misinterpreting a signal could lead to unintended consequences, potentially escalating tensions or even triggering a conflict, an outer world conflict. That sounds like Independence Day. That's terrifying. The discovery of extraterrestrial life would raise profound ethical questions, such as how to respond, how to communicate, and of course, how to protect both ourselves and the extraterrestrial civilization. The face on Mars. Now, this famous image captured by the Viking 1 orbiter back in 1976 initially appeared to show a human-like face on the Martian surface. Talk about terrifying. The face on Mars has become a focal point for conspiracy theorists who claim that it's evidence of an ancient civilization that was destroyed by some sort of catastrophic event. Some even believe that the face is a warning to humanity about the dangers of nuclear war. Now, this has become a cultural phenomenon. The face on Mars has been referred in countless books, movies, TV shows, you name it. It has become a symbol of human curiosity and our desire to explore the unknown. Now, this has also been a reminder of our own mortality. Of course, the idea that this advanced civilization could have once existed on Mars only to be wiped out, well, that's a sobering reminder of our own fragility. It raises questions about the future of humanity and possibly of our own extinction. And now we have the Hand of God. This X-ray image captured by NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory shows a pulsar wind nebula that resembles a giant cosmic hand. It's like the final villain in Smash Bros. Can't beat that guy. The Hand of God is a remnant of a supernova explosion, a cataclysmic event that can outshine entire galaxies. The intense radiation could actually take out all life forms, and yes, NASA should be very worried about this. Space is absolutely terrifying. I would never step foot out there ever. Space is a hostile environment for human life. We shouldn't be out there. The vacuum of space, extreme temperatures, harmful radiation, you name it. I'm not sure why something that could literally take out humans is being named as the Hand of God, but whatever, we'll take it. The light we see from the Hand of God today has traveled for thousands of years, giving us a glimpse, really, into the past. Next, we have the doorway on Mars. In 2022, NASA's Curiosity rover captured an intriguing image of a rock formation on Mars that resembled a doorway. A doorway to where? To who? This peculiar feature, located on Mount Sharp, sparked widespread curiosity and of course fueled speculation of the potential signs of ancient Martian civilizations. The doorway appeared to be a rectangular opening, roughly 12 inches tall and 16 inches wide, carved into the Martian rock. The doorway on Mars has become a focal point for conspiracy theorists. Of course, they all claim that this is evidence of an ancient civilization that once inhabited the planet. Some even believe that the doorway is a portal to another dimension or some sort of secret underground base. Is it possible that us humans lost a lot of these advanced technologies? What is teleporting through time or dimensions used to be normal for these civilizations? This is pretty deep and it's lots to think about. about, so comment all your theories down below. Moving on, let me take you back to 2022. NASA released a sonification of the Perseus cluster, translating the pressure waves emitted by the supermassive black hole at its center into sound. Yeah, now we can hear black holes. We're in the future, folks. The result is a deep, haunting hum that can be unsettling to many. Is this even happening? How is this possible? The fact that we're able to have recordings of something like this is actually insane to me and my human brain. We're talking about the sounds in a potential black hole. At the heart of the Perseus cluster lies a supermassive black hole, millions of times more massive than that of our sun. Now, this black hole is capable of swallowing entire stars and emitting powerful jets of energy. Galaxies within the Perseus cluster are consistently colliding and merging, creating chaotic and destructive events that reshape the cosmic landscape. It's going to be just a matter of time before it collides with Earth, and then at that point, well, we'll just simply vanish forever. Next up, we have the NGC 2467, also known as the Skull Nebula. It's a fascinating celestial object, and by fascinating, I mean absolutely terrifying. Just looking at these images, it looks like the Milky Way. It's really hard to understand what it is we're looking at and how big these things really are in comparison to our planet here. When we gaze upon the Skull Nebula, we're not merely observing a distant celestial object. No, we're peering into the distant past. Take that in for a second. The light that reaches our eyes today has been traveling through space for millions of years, and then finally it reaches our eyes. This means we're seeing the nebula as it existed millions of years ago, not how it looks today. It's like looking back in time, witnessing a cosmic event that happened long before humans even existed. Next up, we have the Black Knight. Not to be confused with Martin Lawrence's The Black Knight, that's a little bit different. The most captivating claim here is that the Black Knight has been orbiting Earth for an astonishing 13,000 years. This idea, rooted in misinterpretation of a radio signal from the 1920s, suggests a highly advanced civilization with the technology to launch a satellite millennia ago. The mysterious radio signals, let's talk about that right off the bat. In the early 20th century, radio operators responded to these strange signals that were later attributed to the Black Knight satellite. These signals, which some believe were attempts at communication, only added to the mystery surrounding this object. Conspiracy theorists have suggested that the signals being sent out in space were coming from the satellite itself, which would be crazy considering how old it is. They argue that this would imply a civilization capable of launching a satellite thousands of years ago, far surpassing our current technological capabilities. Maybe the civilization that built the pyramids were also creating the Black Knight satellite. Maybe they were busy, who knows? Imagine having Wi-Fi signals in the Great Pyramids. Oh, that'd be amazing. Candy Crush in the pyramids? Oh, we're set, that's life. Who knows what technology they had in the ancient Egyptian times, because we'll never know at this point. Next up, we have the Cat's Eye Nebula, which is just incredible to learn about. Take a look at all these pictures, okay? Believe it or not, but the iconic image of the Cat's Eye Nebula was captured by the Hubble Space Telescope back in 1994. That's 30 years ago. That's as old as me. Crazy. The Cat's Eye Nebula is a planetary nebula, a stage in the life cycle of a star like our sun, and it's a preview of what our sun might look like billions of years from now when it sheds out its outer layers. Spoiler alert, it's terrifying and really hot. This truly is a glimpse into the future, whereas the other ones are a glimpse into the past. The Cat's Eye Nebula is a preview of what our sun might look like billions of years from now. That's like the worst trailer for a movie ever. This must be terrifying for NASA to research and figure out exactly what this is, and if this could destroy planet Earth. Let's hope not.
This was the last piece of audio taken from the soon-to-be crew of the Apollo 1 when a fire broke out, killing all 3 men. Just a heads up, this audio is pretty distressing. On January 27, 1967, the soon-to-be crew of the Apollo 1, Ed White, Roger Chaffee, and Gus Grissom were in the middle of a launch simulation. But things went terribly wrong, all thanks to an exposed wire. This test was crucial for preparing for their upcoming mission. They were fully suited up, strapped in, running through their checklist when Grissom noticed a strange smell. There was a brief hold in the countdown, but they couldn't pinpoint the source. They resumed their countdown, but just a few minutes later, a fire broke out. The astronauts' frantic voices were heard over the comm. Ed White yelled, "Fire!" Now, because of the design of the command module and the pure oxygen atmosphere, the flames spread incredibly fast. Ground crews rushed to help, but the thick smoke and toxic gases made it nearly impossible to reach the crew. It took several hours to recover their bodies, which were trapped in the melted materials. Uh-oh. Two words you never want to hear during spaceflight. On January 28, 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger launched from Kennedy Space Center at 11:38 a.m. It all seemed normal at first, but just 58 seconds into the flight, things took a turn. 9 puffs of smoke were spotted coming from the right solid rocket booster. The problem was that the cold temperatures had messed with the O-rings, which were supposed to seal the joints, and this allowed hot gas to escape, causing serious damage. As the shuttle continued its ascent, a flame broke through the joint of the booster. The crew, unaware of the situation, received a command to go at throttle up. Commander Francis Scobie responded with "Roger" at throttle up. That was the last communication from Challenger. Just moments later, the right booster detached from the shuttle. Pilot Mike Smith's last recorded words were simply, "Uh-oh." The shuttle began to break apart in a catastrophic explosion, scattering debris over the Atlantic Ocean at an altitude of 46,000 feet. The crew cabin, which stayed intact at first, experienced extreme forces during the breakup. Investigations later revealed that some crew members might have actually been conscious after the explosion, as personal oxygen packs had been activated. Rick Husband, the captain aboard the Columbia Space Shuttle, was in communication with ground control during re-entry. The last message they received from him was, quote, "Roger," before he was cut off. The Columbia disaster is one of the darkest moments in NASA's history. On February 1st of 2003, Columbia was set to re-enter the atmosphere after a successful mission. The crew, including 7 astronauts, was busy preparing for landing as the entry flight control team took their positions at mission control early that morning. Everything was going as planned until about 8:44 a.m. when Columbia re-entered the atmosphere at a staggering speed. Unfortunately, the shuttle had sustained damage to its thermal protection system during launch. This damage allowed superheated air to enter the left wing, which began melting the aluminum structure inside. As the shuttle continued to descend, the crew didn't notice that the left wing was losing control because of increased drag, and around 8:53 a.m. things started to go wrong. The shuttle shed pieces of debris, which ground observers saw as these bright flashes in the sky. By 8:58 a.m. the shuttle systems began reporting failures, and just moments later, at 8:59:32 exactly, the communication with Columbia was cut off. What followed was catastrophic. The shuttle broke apart in the atmosphere. All 7 crew members lost their lives. Investigations revealed that the crew had likely experienced a quick depressurization before they could take any protective measures. Houston, we've had a problem. No, I am not misquoting Jim Lovell there. This one is often misquoted, mainly because of the Apollo 13 movie. Apollo 13 is one of the most famous space missions, but not for the reasons everyone was hoping. It was launched on April 11th, 1970. And it started off on track, but about 56 hours into the mission, astronaut Jack Swigert switched on some fans in the oxygen tanks to get better pressure readings, and suddenly there was this loud bang, and power began to flicker. And that's when Swigert calmly reported, "Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here." Fellow astronaut Jim Lovell then repeated this, saying, "Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt," whatever that means, and this problem just escalated quickly. The crew realized they were losing oxygen and their power supply was failing. With 2 of their fuel cells out, they were in serious trouble, and the mission's goal shifted from landing on the moon to just getting everyone home alive. And the lunar module, Aquarius, became their lifeboat. They powered it up to preserve the little oxygen and electricity that they had left. As the crew was looping around the moon, NASA engineers worked frantically to kind of find solutions. It was a race against time, but miraculously the astronauts did make it back to Earth on April 17th, 1970, splashing down in the South Pacific. In 2003, Yang Liwei, the first Chinese astronaut ever to reach space during the Shenzhou 5 mission, reported this eerie knocking sound on his spaceship. While floating in the silence of space, he started hearing something unsettling, an eerie knocking sound. He described it as, quote, "someone knocking on the body of the spaceship, just like hitting an iron bucket with a wooden hammer." He went on to report that it neither came from outside nor inside the spaceship. He couldn't figure out where the sound was coming from. Curious and understandably a little freaked out, Yang peeked out of the porthole, hoping to figure out what was making this noise, but there was nothing. After returning to Earth, he even tried to recreate the sound, but there was no luck there either. I've always found this case very compelling, just the idea of floating around in space all alone and then hearing something you can't explain. That'd be terrifying. So what, or maybe even who, was knocking on the spacecraft? You'd think space would be silent since sound needs a medium to travel, like air or water. And some experts have said that if it was a knocking sound, something physical might have been hitting the spacecraft. As for what that may have been, who knows? Thank you. Tell everyone it happened. This was the last garbled message sent by astronaut Vladimir Komarov, who perished during the Soyuz 1 mission. On April 23, 1967, the Soviet Soyuz spacecraft was launched, carrying cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov. Things went wrong almost immediately. One of the solar panels failed to unfold, which meant there wasn't enough power for the spacecraft systems. By the time the capsule had completed 13 orbits, the automatic stabilization system was completely out, leaving the manual controls only partially working. And meanwhile, the crew of the Soyuz 2 was preparing for a rescue mission, planning to fix the solar panel, but thunderstorms at the launch site forced them to abort. Mission Control decided to bring Komarov back home after 18 orbits. As the capsule re-entered Earth's atmosphere though, Komarov communicated that everything seemed fine, stating the engine was running for 146 seconds. Everything is going fine, quote. But then the main parachute failed to deploy. Komarov tried to activate a reserve chute, but that got tangled. The descent module crashed down at around 140 kilometers per hour. Rescue teams arrived to find the capsule on its side, engulfed in flames, with molten metal dripping from it. It was clear that Komarov did not survive. They're on the moon watching us. These words were supposedly spoken by Neil Armstrong during his walk on the moon. Neil Armstrong made history when he walked on the moon. Of course, there are loads of conspiracy theories surrounding the moonwalk now, but here's one I hadn't ever heard of until today. After Armstrong landed, NASA supposedly lost transmission for about 2 minutes, and during this blackout, Armstrong allegedly sent a secret message saying, "These babies were huge, sir, enormous. Oh God, you wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there are other spacecraft out here lined up on the far side of the crater's edge. They're on the moon watching us." I don't know, this one's definitely dubious and it's hard to find other information about it, but hey, if he really did see some strange stuff up there, that would definitely be really cool. The 3 men aboard the Soyuz 11 remain the only astronauts ever to die while still in space. The mission was launched on June 6th of 1971, aiming to dock with the Salyut space station. The docking process was complex and took over 3 hours, and their mission lasted 22 days, during which time they carried out scientific experiments and live broadcasts. It was far from smooth sailing though. On day 11, a fire broke out in the station, which they fortunately managed to put out. On June 29th, the crew prepared for their return to Earth. Cosmonaut Vladislav Volkov joked with ground control to make sure they had cognac waiting for them down below. This would unfortunately be one of the last messages flight controllers received though. Soon after on docking from Salyut 1, radio communication went silent. When the capsule landed, rescue teams rushed to check on the crew, and unfortunately, they found all 3 cosmonauts, Georgy Dobrovolsky, Viktor Patsayev, and Vladislav Volkov, dead in their seats. It turned out that a ventilation valve had opened during the separation, causing a rapid loss of cabin pressure. This was fatal in less than a minute. The autopsies revealed that they died from asphyxiation and hemorrhaging caused by the vacuum environment. You hear that? That whistling sound? Now, this quote from astronaut Gene Cernan may not be as disturbing as the others on this list. Not really disturbing at all, to be honest, but take a listen to what he's describing. This is audio from the Apollo 10 mission in 1969. Cernan was piloting the Lunar module and described an odd whistling sound he was hearing to fellow astronauts John Young and Thomas Stafford. They sound pretty calm and content there. I would have been incredibly freaked out. You're already in space, now you're hearing a weird whistling noise. Is there something wrong with the ship? Is there an alien floating around? I don't know, I'd be pretty freaked out. Shoe leather. That's a quote from astronaut Alan Bean. Not all that terrifying on its own, but shoe leather was the description Bean gave about an odd shiny thing he spotted on the surface of the moon while in space. He had no idea what it was then, and still has no idea today. Neither does anyone else, but you can be damn sure there are some eerie conspiracy theories, mainly that it could be some remnant of alien technology. Are there more mundane explanations? Sure, but you're not really here for those now, are you? Now, this list has been pretty dark, so I thought I'd close out with another quote from Alan Bean, who passed away in 2018 but spent a lot of his final years painting and reminiscing about the incredible experiences he had as an astronaut. Alan Bean left something behind on the moon during the Apollo 12 mission in 1969. His silver astronaut lapel pin. In the years after the mission, he'd think about that pin often, saying, quote, "When I look at the moon at night, think about that pin up there, just as shiny as it ever was, and someday maybe somebody will go pick it up."